All right, that's enough of my theme song, guys. Some of you requested that I shorten the length that I play that, so there you go. Welcome back to my channel, guys. We're on a episode of Candid AF. That's Candid Adam Francisco, not Candid as fuck as some of you think it is. And I'm here with Miracles in Spanish. And like me, she is a fellow adoptee. So, Miracles in Spanish, I would love for you to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Milagros, also go by Millie. I'm Peruvian, was born there and a native of California now for the last 20-something years. You want me to tell you about my adoption story now? Just like go
Yeah,
into
let's
it?
get into it. So,
Okay.
as you guys know, I was adopted at birth by a Jewish family, a white family. Both my parents are white. So it's been interesting for me being Latino by blood and by appearance,
Mhm.
but not having any of that culture. So, Milagros here, you were adopted at birth, or were you? Tell us your story, actually.
Okay, so originally I was adopted in Peru from my first mother. She was a poultry seller, which is someone who sells like chicken and chicken eggs, all of that stuff. She was a little more of like the middle class in Peru. And she had a client that was an uneducated woman that came from a tribe in the jungle. And unfortunately, she got caught up with a married man and got pregnant and was asking my mom where she could get an abortion in the city. My mom at the time was 40 years old and didn't have any children because the man that she was with couldn't give her any children. Um, so she was obviously very eager to like adopt me, and she told her, I will take care of all your finances, but just don't abort your baby and give her to me. And 9 months later I came about. And we came to the United States when I was 2, for some medical care for my mom, and she got to live till I was about 6 years old, and then she passed away. So I was adopted by her sister and my aunt and my uncle, which is why my parents are like significantly older than most people who are my age. My mom's birthday just passed; she just turned 88 years old. So if you, that's just she's
88?
significantly, yeah, she's significantly
Wow.
older. My first mom who adopted me actually used to call my mom Ma, like that was because she was 15 when she was born. Um, I've It's been an interesting setup because I originally thought my first mom was my biological mom my whole life, until I was about 23.
Wow.
And my biological father, which was the man that she was married to, he wasn't like a very good man, so that's why I don't refer to him as my father. Um, he contacted me via Facebook and started to kind of like act very fatherly, but I was already in my 20s. So it was awkward for me. And I wanted to tell my mom, um, like I told my mom what happened, and I told her, I wish there was a way I could tell him to basically leave me alone. And that's when she told me the original story of what happened and everything. Um, Originally, when I was young, when I was in my 20s, my early 20s, I was kind of upset that they didn't tell me. But now I have like a lot of pride for what my mother did, because I can't imagine what she was going through, being 40 and not having children. I'm only 28 and I don't have children, and that makes me sad. So I can't imagine being 40 and at that age and going through what she was going through. And then I also found out that it was like her wish for me to find out when I was older. So they did what she wanted to do for me. Um, my life has not been perfect. I have faced like my own challenges and obstacles in life as a child, and then also as an adult. Um, Things that weren't in my control and things that were in my control. But I just always like to say at the end of the day, it's still a good life. I still had the right to live, and it doesn't mean that I shouldn't live because I went through this or I went through that. I had always been very pro-life because I'm Catholic, but that came from almost like someone else's ideas for me, right? The reason I became very adamant about it was when I went to college. I was forced to take a feminism class, like most of us are.
Yeah.
We're forced to take liberal studies if we're trying to get it. I have a science degree. I don't have no purpose taking that class, but I was forced to take it. And I remember being very uncomfortable when the teacher would say things like, it doesn't have to be your choice, but you should always allow that choice for another woman. And even though I was still pro-life up to that point, it had made me change my mind, because it made me think of voting as like a selfless thing, when really voting is more of a selfish thing, because you want to vote for yourself and your loved ones, not for other people. You don't
Right.
buy tile to put in your bathroom and then install it in your neighbor's house. Like, that's not how that works.
Right.
So I was very brainwashed when I was in college, and I pushed aside my morals and my values when it came to abortion, because I was convinced that just because I didn't want to do it doesn't mean that other people shouldn't have the right to do it. And I'm sorry, we live in California, so there's a crazy person behind me. But after I heard my story and like how I came about and everything, like I said in the video when I posted about us doing this, it would be hypocritical of me to say I'm not pro-life if I got to live and I got to exist over, all these babies, like 2,000 babies that die every day
Yeah.
here in the United States. So for me, that's very important that I talk about it, because I'm the living, breathing example of it. And people always say, like, they like to use celebrities, for example, like Justin Bieber was going to be aborted, or they like to say, what if this like girl who was raped and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it's like, we always talk about like the woman that got pregnant, but the people that are around you, a lot of us were not planned. A lot of us were not planned. A lot of us were mistakes, accidents. And we still got to live. So if you meet people that were not planned, like that could have been an abortion. That's just your neighbor or your friend or anyone else. It doesn't have to be a celebrity or anything like that for you to think that this is wrong. The procedure itself is disgusting. I was forced to watch videos of it when I was a child, because I was in catechism. Like I said, I grew up Catholic, so we're taught that at a very young age. We were even like shown like how the size we are when we're babies in the womb, like the months and everything. And what I liked that they taught us about that is we had separate classes for the girls and for the boys. And it's a big thing to talk about, boys versus girls, because if you notice, the people who are out marching in the streets are not men. They're women, and that's really scary. It's you have the person creating the life and the person who has the home, who's creating the home, who's advocating for this to end, for that life to end. And that's what's
Yeah.
really scary, I think, in society, because you're teaching young women, if you're not teaching them like me that it's not about you, it's about other people, you're teaching them that life is not life, which I knew that life was life from the beginning, but I was convinced that it doesn't have to be me that's doing it. Other people can do it. And there's a lot of lies that they say, the propaganda that Planned Parenthood puts out. And Planned Parenthood honestly only commits half of the abortions in the country every year. It was only like 300,000 of the abortions. The other 300,000 come from other abortion clinics. And I think it's like for every, don't quote me, but it's a large number. I think it's like 40 or 50 abortions, they only do one adoption referral. For every 40, 50 abortions, they only do
Yeah.
one
It's
adoption
disgusting.
referral.
Yeah.
Um,
That's horrible.
and that to me is not helpful at all. They also services that they provide, or every year it's only 3% of what they profit from or something like that, which is the 3% thing is a lie as well, because what they do is if a woman comes in pregnant and she's already planning to get an abortion, she's going to get a pregnancy test, which is a service, and she's going to get a STD test, which is a service, and then she'll get put on contraceptives, which is a service, and then she'll get the abortion. But Planned Parenthood will only count those three as services, and then just that abortion as 25%. So then they'll do, okay, so out of 4 people who came in for abortions, that's considered one abortion. So they straight up lie to you, and the media puts out that information, and also our politicians put out that information, and they advocate for this hospital, for the health care of women, which I take care of myself. I go to the doctor when I need to, and I don't ever remember signing up for a pap smear and an abortion. That's really not a part of women's healthcare or healthcare reproduction. And I think a lot of it has to do with just trying to minimize what it really is. If people actually knew what it really was, I don't think they would be for it.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up as a liberal, and I was always pro-choice. And what I find interesting now in hindsight, now that I'm pro-life, that I've kind of had my own awakening,
Mm-hmm.
is I was always told that if you're pro-life, like the pro-lifers I was told are crazy, evil people.
Mm.
That's when you're a liberal, that's what you believe. You believe people that want to protect babies' lives are evil. And
Mm-hmm.
then now that I'm pro-life, I'm like, that's so fucking twisted. To
Mm-hmm.
look at a group of people, look at pro-lifers and say, you're wrong for putting a baby's life over a woman's rights. They got
Mm-hmm.
it they got it backwards.
Mm-hmm.
I think life is way more important than someone's rights. Like when people say oh, women's rights are important, it's like, well, what about the female babies that are aborted? Don't they have rights too? Don't they
Right.
have rights too? And then I think about living organisms, right? You could take something like you could take like cells in a laboratory, or
Mm-hmm.
you could take very simple organisms, and some organisms react negatively to like light or to things like they feel pain or they try to avoid some kind of negative stimulus at the most basic level of life, right? So you would have to apply that to a human being in the womb, even though it can't speak, even if it doesn't have a consciousness yet. Its innate desire is to survive. So
And
when these
right.
Right. So when these people are getting abortions to the babies, you literally have a an organism that has no defense. The mother is the defense. I don't think they realize that. The mother is meant to be the protector of what's in her womb. She is the only defense that that child has. So when a mother chooses to get an abortion and says, "Kill what's ever inside of me," that being, if it could fight back, it would fight back.
Right.
And there are some
Any
cases,
any being will fight to survive
correct.
if
And
they
when
can.
and there's been cases when babies are aborted late term, they actually try to fight back in the womb, which to
Hmm.
me breaks my
Like they
fucking
run
heart.
away from it, right? I
Right.
know I've seen,
It
yeah.
breaks my fucking heart that they're trying to avoid whatever is trying to poke at them and tear them apart. And for people to say a fetus is not a baby or a fetus is not a human, I'm
Uh-huh.
like, yo, you idiots. We all started the same way. It's
And
just it's
if
just the
you,
path of life.
right, if you look at our culture, when a woman announces that she's pregnant and if she wants it and she's happy about it, we acknowledge it. We don't say, oh, we can't talk about it just yet. It's not, it's just a clump of cells. We can't talk about it just yet. Like, don't talk about it. We don't say that. And even if we don't talk about it, we don't talk about it because we're scared that we might lose the baby. And it's a negative outlook on life. But because you've made a bad decision as a woman, which I am a big, I don't think that pregnancy, I get a lot of hate for this, but I think pregnancy is 100% a woman's responsibility. I actually don't think it's a man's responsibility. Unless the woman is being forced to have sex, then there is no freaking reason why you should be getting pregnant. Um, there's
There's a lot of
so
options. Yeah, a lot of
there's a
protection you can.
lot of options. I'm so against birth control, but what people don't understand is there's only 6 days out of the month that you're actually only going, like, where you will have maximum chances to getting pregnant. And if you we've done this for years. Like, this is years women have done this before we had apps and everything. We tracked ourselves, and that's how we would find out, okay, this is when we're going to have our period. So this, if we don't get it, then that's when we have our baby. That's we're pregnant. So there's ways to track yourself. Now that we have apps and everything, they'll show you you're ovulating or your least amount of chance to get pregnant this day, et cetera, et cetera. There's no excuses to, like, not get pregnant. I
Right.
think it's it's just, abortion is a clutch, kind of like welfare, for bad, for the consequence. Like, it's just for your, instead of actually facing your consequences, it's just like an enabler.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just like it's like so weird to me that there are people out there that look at a baby as it's an inconvenience to my life, so I must kill it, and I'm entitled to that right because
sounds
my
terrible.
comfort is more important than this existence.
Right.
And I always tell people like, yo, time. How long have human existed for? Millions of years, whatever it is, hundreds, who knows? But the point is, every life only gets about 80 years if they're lucky. That's the life expectancy is about 80, 81, right?
Hmm.
So who are we to take that away from somebody? We have it now. We're already here. So how are you already born and then you're pro abortion? Like you're already born though. Like you get to exist. So why would
Right.
you deny the right for someone else? Like that's playing God, in my opinion.
It is.
Um,
It is playing God. And like you said, there's two of us here that are, I don't know if you were going to be aborted, but I know I was. You know,
so you because your mother, your mom, your first but your mother knew the birth mother who said she wanted to have the abortion, right?
right. That's why she
So
went into the
you
city. It was,
right. So you knew that you were going to be aborted
I
for
knew I
sure.
was. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know my birth parents at all,
Uh
but
huh.
I do know that my birth parents were Catholics because they're Mexican. So
Hmm.
I would assume the reason why they didn't see abortion as a possibility was because of that. That's my theory. I know that my biological mother was born very poor,
Hmm.
uh, and I know my grandparents were born very poor. You probably know this, but in Mexico, there's like dark skin and light skinned Mexicans, right? And
Right.
typically, all the research says if you're a dark skinned Mexican, you're typically less educated, you're
Hmm.
typically lower income, you're
Yeah.
typically a manual laborer. And you know that the upper mobility in a lot of Latino countries is very low compared to the US. Here in America, we can all move up the ranks, right? We can move
Right.
up quickly, but not in Mexico. If you're born poor, you'll probably die poor. If you're
Hmm.
born rich, you'll probably die rich. That's the difference between Mexico and America, and that's the difference between America and most countries. So I know that I was born poor to a very poor Mexican family. Now I'm a crypto guy, and I'm free. It's crazy to think about, but that's the whole point. Is I was given the chance to survive, and that's all that I can ask for in this world. Is every baby that's conceived should be given the right to have a chance,
Right.
right?
And like I said, I'm sure your life hasn't been perfect either. My life hasn't been perfect. I've gone through trials and tribulations. I mean, I didn't get to this level of confidence that I have by just having a very easy life. And I'm very grateful for what was given to me. Like you said, just like, it's life, and we take it for what it is, and we learned our lessons. We try better every day. It doesn't mean that we people don't have the right to live. Um, I heard this one joke where someone was saying, um, "Oh, I'm calling on my neighbors because they're abusing their child," and then the lady's like, "Oh, you don't have to call them. You just don't have to abuse your child." And she's like, but they're abusing someone else's child. Like a child is being abused, so I still have to call. Like, no, just don't abuse your own child. It's like that's not what this is about. Like this constant hate for pro-lifers. It's not about us and our opinions or the mother. We're just, like you said, we're vouching for something that can't speak for itself, because we are the example of that. Like I am the example of that, and I know other people are too. I know that other people were not planned. I know that's a lot of people in this world were not planned to brought into this world. And if they had the option out there here in the United States, I'm sure that could have been a choice of theirs, but they chose not to do it. So we're not fighting for a woman's right to choose, or we're fighting for our opinions. We're fighting for that child, because that child's going to turn into an adult and it's going to be out here living and progressing, and we need that. We need
Right.
more people in this world, because we're going to die off.
Yeah,
um,
exactly. And we're actually the research says that we're having a problem right now. People aren't having as many children as needed to
no.
push our society
Oh,
forward. So we do need to return to population growth again because we're losing that. And a lot of it has to do with liberal ideology. You're 28, and something you said earlier is that you don't have children yet. And are you disappointed by that?
yes, absolutely.
So I'm 38, by the way, and I don't have children either.
Hmm.
And I was always told as a liberal in New York City, you know, don't have kids until you're a multimillionaire. right? Like have all the money in the world so that your child will have a really good life. Now
Yeah.
that I'm 38 and I'm surrounded by conservative thinkers, one of the most important conservative values in this country is family. And if you're a Trump supporter, a lot of them put family first, which I think is an
Hmm.
absolutely beautiful thing. I regret at this age not having had kids sooner in my life. Even
Hmm.
if it didn't work out, the relationship with some of the women I've dated, that would have been fine because we could have co-parented, we could have, grinded it out. But I could have been 38 with a kid who was probably 15 or 16 right now, and by 40 I could have been free and clear. And now I'm 30, right now I'm 38, and I'm still looking to have a kid. So
Hmm.
now what's going to happen is I'm going to be 51 years old with a teenager, and that's if I were to get a girl pregnant tonight, right?
Right.
So that's crazy to me. 51 with a teenager. I'm going to be
But
55.
hey, let me tell you something. I had an older mom, I had an older dad, and you know what? I just talked about this with someone. It's the best thing that has ever happened to me is having older parents. My mom was not out here trying to discover herself. She wasn't trying to find herself. My dad, older men have like a very peaceful, kind of like a goofy side to them because they're just chilling, they're just relaxing through life. They already figured it out, And I I really appreciate that I had older parents because I hear what my friends my age go through when they were children. And to me, it just sounds like a lot of people were not prepared mentally to have children, which is okay. That happens and I understand. Um, but because my parents, they weren't perfect, but because they knew who they were, they were grounded on their values and everything.
Yeah,
You
it's true.
probably you weren't grounded, were probably early 20s in your values. It's not about the money as
I'm
much as it is
38.
like
I'm 38. I'm still not grounded.
so if you're not grounded like that on your foundation, then it doesn't it doesn't make good for raising kids.
Hmm.
So I think it's better for men to be older, obviously, when they're having children. Um, but it's healthier for women to be younger. And that's another thing. Like
Exactly.
it's not a bad thing that you're gonna be an older dad. I'm sure it'll still work out really great because older parents are just way better, in my opinion.
Well, I hope my wife is not my age. I hope that she's a lot younger than I am. But I don't think it doesn't
Yeah.
work as a dude. I mean, we're attracted to beauty and youth, so that's kind of like makes sense. Did I lose her? It looks like I lost her. We're gonna wait for her to come back on because there's a few other things I wanted to talk to her. Let me just make sure. We lost you. Come back. So give her a few minutes to come back, guys. Um, but she's great. We met through Instagram actually. I went to her account and I saw that she had reposted one of my videos. So I reached out to her, thanking her for doing that. And then she had some content that I really appreciated on her page. And I'm going to try to pull it up, see if this is going to work. It didn't work yesterday when I was trying to use this um, screen share, but let's try this real quick. See if I can get this up. Let's go share screen. Let's see if this will work. Share screen. Oh, my screen share is off right now. It's not working. Okay, she hopped on.
Sorry.
Don't worry about it. I was about to show them your video from Instagram, but my screen share is not working right now. But anyway, guys, so what's your situation now? Are you like in a relationship? Are you close to having a family or thinking about it? Like, where are you at?
Sorry, I'm trying to use my charger, but no, I'm not in a relationship. I was in a relationship last year that unfortunately ended, but I'm right now trying to get out of California, so I'm not trying to get involved with anything right now. I'm just trying to make my money and save my money and get out because
Where are you going?
my family bought land in Tennessee, so I plan on
Okay.
heading that direction, just to be
Wow.
safe because my brother's there and my other cousins will be there, and it's not safe right now for me to be in California or be on my own in the state of the country the way that it is. So I want to be around like the strong men in my family and help with whatever I have to do there. We're getting animals, we're going to live off our land.
Oh
Um,
my God, I got it. You know what? If you're doing that, when your farm is ready, I will come up to Tennessee and we'll do a YouTube video, and you give me a tour of how you guys are living off the land or whatever, which I think is dope.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm really excited about it. My sister-in-law is Japanese and she had a farm in Japan and everything. And then my mom grew up in a farm in Peru. So all of us are just really excited to just kind of get back down to like very family values and homestead, real homestead. And just
Yeah,
my nieces are turning, they're going to be adults in like a couple of months, and I know they want to be young moms and everything. So they're actually part of a church called the Rod of Iron Ministries. They hosted the Freedom Festival in Pennsylvania last year in October. They host it every year, so definitely check it out, you guys. They're very pro 2A, very anti-communism. The leader of their church is Korean, and he was saved from Korea, from the communism and everything. So that's why they started this church. They're very like they want to the people to have dominion over themselves instead of government having dominion over them.
yeah,
And they teach young women that, and also young men that the greatest thing for them to do is to get married, have family,
yeah,
and build a foundation and everything. So my nieces grew up in that lifestyle and they will be young moms, and I just would love to be around them when that happens and just be a
yeah.
big family. So we'll see what happens when I'm out there, but
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, and I'm a big fan of returning to those kind of traditional values. One thing I wanted to talk about was like I find it funny how uh, Democrats and liberals generally like to say things like Black Lives Matter and I support Black lives and all that stuff, and they talk about how bad systemic racism is. You know, when you look at the actual stats of abortion, when you look at the actual facts of abortion, when you look at the placement of abortion clinics, a lot of abortion clinics are placed by low income neighborhoods, right? Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, literally said that poor people of color should be exterminated like weeds. She basically said that. And when you look at the actual stats, 47% of Black women end their pregnancies in abortions. 47%, right? Hispanics are, I think, the second highest group. Asians and whites are the lowest rates. So when you want to talk about like actual systemic racism, the entire abortion industry is slaughtering Black bodies, Black babies, followed by brown babies. And I'm like, that's the real systemic racism is right there. I don't think, I mean, do the police have issues? Of course they do. But the police are killing a small percentage of Black and brown people compared to what the abortion industry is doing. You know, it's
I
crazy.
think Margaret Sanger's husband was a part of the KKK. The
That doesn't surprise me.
Planned Parenthood, where she what she funded was Planned Parenthood. They've killed more people, more Black people than the KKK has ever killed. I think they like
Exactly.
can triple the number, um, and they only put their clinics in very low income, like you said, low income cities. Uh,
That's systemic racism. Literally, all of that. The whole industry, abortion industry, is systemically racist, and it's meant to depopulate the Black and brown communities. That's all it's there for. And then you have all these white women liberals being like, "My body, my choice," but your babies aren't the ones being killed at a rate that the Black babies are. And then you're standing for Black Lives Matter. It's so hypocritical at a level I've never seen before. It's unbelievable. The other thing you said earlier about babies, like don't hurt your own babies, right? I heard that analogy similar with puppies. So, for example, let's say you have a dog and you don't abuse your dog. Good for you. Let's say your neighbor has a dog and they're abusing their dog. What are you not supposed to care? No, you're going to call animal cruelty or whatever and be like, yo, my neighbor's dog is being abused. Go save it. Like you're supposed to care. And that's the way I feel like abortion is. Like, even though it's not my baby, I don't want someone killing babies. Babies should not be killed. Period. I don't care whose baby it is. You know what I'm saying?
just like we get upset when mothers kill their babies because of whatever reason, or someone sexually abuses a child and ruins their life. Just like we get upset, all of these abuse that happen to children, we have to get just as upset when this happens to, like you said, we can't hear them. They can't speak. They can't talk. They can't vouch for themselves. And then when they do, when we see these videos of them running away from these clamps, and like that's right there. There you go. And then at the end of the day, if you look at all of the health statistics for women, and you're like, this is helping women. Okay, so the helping women part is that she can go off and not be pregnant now, right? Like not have a child. But she's less likely to be pregnant again after having an abortion. She's more likely to go through depression or substance abuse. She's more likely to not be in the relationship that she was in with the person that she had the abortion from. And she's less likely to be married at the end of her life. So this doesn't really help women. There is a big like controversy, I think, with people that they think that feminism helps women, and it's completely destroying women in so many ways. Was it like the 1960s, 1970? I don't remember when abortion was passed, but 1960s is when the birth control pill was passed, like was allowed out in the market. And that completely changed the dating market. It completely changed how people date. And now women didn't have to be held accountable for having multiple sexual partners, because they could kind of hide it because they wouldn't get pregnant. There was no responsibility. There's no accountability anymore. And that has created a culture for us to, like you said, that it's just kind of like mind your own business. And that doesn't help no one, especially women. I would say especially women, because some men don't ever find out that their children are aborted, and some men do, but some men usually don't find out. Unfortunately, I know too many stories of women who've gone abortions, and they didn't tell the father of the child, because they just wanted to brush it off, I guess. And it doesn't help them in the end. It's really sad. So like if you know women, this is like something that as women we need to talk about more, because we want to not hurt people's feelings. Like women sit in their emotions a lot. We're creatures of our emotions, and we don't want to hurt people's feelings. So we don't want to say I'm pro-life, because that would mean we're against women. I don't think that's it at all. As a woman, you are the creator of life. A man just has to ejaculate in you. That's 10 seconds versus 9 months of you actually creating a life. We're the ones that are holding this. We have to understand that we are the first defense for them. And if we're not
Exactly.
doing that, we're not going to get anywhere. These marches that happen, and I just see a bunch of women. I never see men. I see like always
So,
a guy with pink hair.
well, so the thing is like when it comes to men speaking up for abortion, there's, and this to me is really another part of the hypocrisy of liberals. Liberals and Democrats always say no uterus, no opinion, right? But yet they'll cheer Lia Thomas as a woman. So it's like, hold on, men can be women, but men can't have an opinion on abortions. It's like it's so mind-boggling to me that that's the
And
way they
then
think.
white people can talk about racism, but they're not black.
Right.
So
It,
it's
I got to tell you this story. I dated this girl once, and we got into the pro-life, pro-choice thing, and when I met her, she had become pro-life, but she had said that she had previously had 3 abortions. 3 abortions. And this woman, by the way, is in her young 30s. Already had 3 abortions.
do you get a stamp card after like the second one? I don't.
I know. So anyway, whenever we would make love, she had like a substance abuse problem. She drank a lot. She smoked a lot of weed. So she was always in like an elevated state. And every time we would make love, if you want to call it that, she would always tell me to finish inside of her. Every time. And every time I'd say to her, but you're not on the pill. And we had just been dating for like a couple weeks. And I was just like, that is a giant red flag. The fact that she's had 3 abortions, the substance abuse, and then telling me to finish inside of her while she has no protection, no pill. And we're not even like, we've only been dating for a few weeks. I was like, yo, this is a red
Because
flag. But that's the problem though. She's so flippant about creating a life that she's just like, oh, I've already had 3 abortions, whatever. And I'm like, yo,
that's not
like that's triple homicide. You've killed 3 people. Like, do you not realize that? Like those 3 people, they'll never be
that,
born again.
that's not even that's not pro-choice anymore. That is her only choice. That is that she sees that as choice A, choice 1, and
Exactly.
like that's her only choice. She doesn't
And it
see
shows
birth
she doesn't,
control as a choice.
and she has no regret. Like you would think after the first abortion, maybe you'd have some regret about it, but you're just like, F it, I'm fine with it. Abortion 2, I'm fine with it. Abortion 3, I'm fine. It was truly shocking to me, and I'm very thankful that relationship did not last. Because a lot of that behavior to me is very scary. And someone that's so flippant about life, I don't know if they make a good mother, to be honest. When you have multiple abortions after abortions after abortion, why would you have the love and care for your 4th or 5th child? Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's a giant red flag to me.
I talk a lot on my personal about like kind of the manosphere of YouTube. Um, and I try to tell men and advocate for them in a way that they're not advocated for. And one thing I always try to tell them is if you are if you want to have children and you are dating a woman that has had an abortion, you need to terminate that relationship, because she's going to be broken for a long time. I have met women that have had abortions. So I'll just give you an example. Like for me doing nails, my clients see me every 2 weeks. It's not like once a month or every 6 months or anything. I see these people I see them more than I see my own family. So I see how someone changes within a month versus a year, and I see like I ask them like, what are you doing this weekend? What do you have going on, or this and that? And these women, because they don't want to live in a logical point in their mind, like they don't want to live in the right side of their mind where it's all logic and like this is what you did, you murdered your child, like, or they don't want to think like I made a mistake and I didn't take the proper like precautions for what I needed to do. They kind of live a life of like very like free and they don't care and everything like that. And like I said earlier, the reason I'm so grateful that I had an older mom is because she wasn't trying to find herself. Um, and that kind of woman is going to have a child and realize that she doesn't want to be a mom, and then she's going to go off the bandwagon. Because if you're able to see a pregnancy test, go into the clinic, hear a heartbeat, and still kill your child when they're in front of you and they're annoying you, because children will annoy you when you're a mom. How is that going to be a good mom? She's not going to be that nurturing, and she's not going to be that loving. There's a lot that I think comes away from your spirit when you have an abortion, and I've seen it in women, and it's very sad. um, I don't see them come back to who they really were after that.
Yeah, I interviewed a guy named Shane Corey, and his child was aborted without his knowledge. You mentioned that earlier. His wife went back home to her liberal family, and his girlfriend, his partner, whatever, and they convinced her to have an abortion. And so she did it behind his back. And now he's trying to pass all these laws, and he's working with Congress or whatever to pass legislation to give men more rights, parental rights. Um, and the thing is, a lot of men don't talk about this stuff because I'm gonna just, and I've mentioned this on the podcast that I did with Shane Corey. Um, and I begged her to keep the baby. We're boyfriend girlfriend. We were dating casually, and she got pregnant. And I literally told her, "Look, I want you to keep the kid." I have the money, I have the time, and I have the desire to be a father. And she was just like, nope, my body, my choice. And I was like, but what is inside your belly is 50% my DNA. It's 50% me. Like, I should have some say in this. And I'm not telling you to get an abortion. I'm telling you, keep the baby. And if you don't want to be part of the baby's life, I'll just be a single dad. But I feel that I had some of what happened in that situation. She said no, and she went move forward with the abortion. And I'll tell you this, for a couple years, every single time I would drink, and this didn't happen when I was a YouTuber, so that's why, no one's ever seen this before. But every time I would drink, I would break down crying hysterically, thinking about the loss of my child, who to this day I still think was a girl. And it was devastating emotionally for me, spiritually. And, I think about all the time how I would have a 4 or 5-year-old today. And that would be awesome. In my opinion, that would have been so freaking cool. And she was a cool girl. She was Venezuelan. She was attractive. I think our kid would have been, a good-looking kid. Yeah, it was really hard emotionally to deal with. So we don't talk about that enough. And you guys already heard. My audience already knows about it once before. They've heard the story.
I think men need to step up. I think they need to step up and talk about it and say that they don't want that, because my mom, because I said grew up Catholic, my mom had like we've stood out on the weekends like at abortion clinics and prayed the rosary and stuff. And I hear a lot of stories with some of these women with the babies that she's saved, that they don't know, like, you don't want to send a woman to welfare, but if she doesn't know that there's resources to help her, then why would she keep the child, right? Like, if she doesn't know, how could she keep them? So if men stood up and said something, then I don't think that would be a hard case to fight in court, to say all you have to do is keep this child alive for 9 months and keep yourself alive, and then hand over the child and give the rights to the father. Because if we look at the statistics, children do way better in a single father household than they do in a single mother household. So it would actually be better for the child to not be on welfare with the mom. It would actually be better for the child to be with the father, who wants to provide a life for them and wants them to live.
Exactly. I always tell people, like, all the data about single motherhood and single parenthood is everything's lumped together, right? And a lot of single parents are not there by choice. Like, they were in a bad situation and they ended up as a single parent. That's a majority of cases. But what about the single parents that did it by choice? Because those do exist. And, I would imagine if you break out the single parents that did it by choice versus the single parents that were put in that situation against their own, they're against their will, you would see a much different outcome with the children, right? I bet if I had a kid, my theory, the kid would be an upstanding citizen. It wouldn't be a kid, going to jail or doing drugs or any of that crap, because I would bring the love and guidance that child needs to thrive in this world. That's my theory, because I want to be a parent. And if I have to be a single dad, I'm totally down for that. So I just feel like men do need more rights. Men do need to speak up also. They need to talk out more. And women really need to do a lot of self-reflection about what abortion really is, because it's pretty evil stuff, in my opinion.
Yes, they need to have more information. Young women, I think, just see it as like a procedure, as a medical thing, something that happens in a hospital, in a clinic. They don't see the evils of it. I know one of my clients is a nurse, and she unfortunately had to work at one for like an internship, and there's actually like a fish bowl that they use where they put the baby in there to count the limbs and everything, to make sure you've got, there's 2 feet, 2 hands, legs and everything, and you see that in there, because if it's in the mother, she can get very ill. But like, you see pieces of a baby there, you see pieces of a human being, and you can't lie to me. You can't tell me like your eyes are going to be different than mine as a man versus a woman. Like, we're both seeing that's a baby. So I think men need to speak up and say something, because if they do, then maybe less women will get abortions, because they'll think, okay, maybe I'm not alone. Maybe I can just give him the rights, because I don't think women that get abortions necessarily, I'm sure there's some of them that, like you said, get multiple abortions, but there are some cases where I'm sure they're they do feel stuck, and they do feel like they can't do anything about it. And maybe the thought of being pregnant is so scary, but if it was just pregnancy you had to go through and you really didn't want this child, the second the child is born, you can hand it over to the father, or to let it up for adoption so someone else can take care of it, because there's so many parents that want to be parents. That's exactly what happened to me. I didn't spend but 2 seconds with my birth mom, and then I was in the hands of my mom. So
Right.
it and I'm that's how it was supposed to be, because she wasn't ready for me. She wasn't prepared, and I think she made an amazing decision for someone who didn't. My birth mom used to hand my mom the money that she was going to give her for the chicken, and tell her, like, you pick out how much it is, because she didn't know math.
Mm.
Yeah, so she was very, very, like, the bottom. So if you have all this opportunity and you're in the United States of America, like, I don't want to hear any excuses. Like, there's so many routes that you could do if you get to the point where you got yourself pregnant, right? But there's so many things you could do before that.
Right.
And I think men should talk about that. Men should talk about how you said, like, your experiences of women telling you that you can finish in them. I've heard that a lot. Because I think that's just a tactic for women to, like, hypnotize men with sex. Because it's like, oh, so awesome, like, she's so awesome that she let me do this. And it's like, you don't understand what you're doing, though. And clearly she
You
doesn't,
know,
because she had 3 abortions without a conscience.
yeah,
And
I what's it called? She would say that to me, finish inside of me, while not being on any type of protection. And then I've dated other girls that would say, like, put a baby in me while having sex, but we're actually on the birth control pill. So they would say those words knowing that it turns a man on, even though they couldn't get pregnant because they were on the pill. So I've seen, like,
yeah,
both dynamics. I've seen a girl use it for like to turn a guy on, but innocently. And then I've seen women use it, I guess what you're saying, to seduce us with sex or hook us in for some reason, even if she has no actual intention to keep the baby if
listen,
she gets pregnant, which I think
the
is sick and
best
twisted.
I I think that women need a little bit of shame these days. They need a little bit of shaming. And I think if men said these stories out loud, and said, I have had these conversations with my friends, and I have straight up been like, do you even take, like, does it scare you when a woman says, you don't have to use a condom, or you don't have to do this? She's like, yeah, it's scary. It's like, it's definitely like, I'm going to fuck her and leave her. Because she's not a woman of value anymore. She's trying to trap you with sex.
Mm,
So that's not a valuable woman anymore. She's trying to earn your attention with sex, not with anything else.
right.
And me, that's, like, really interesting, because if you guys just talked about it, I bet you, okay, first of all, you'll probably get a lot of, like, that's toxic masculinity. You're hurting women. But if you talked about it more, 100%, I think women would be like, okay, I shouldn't do that. Because at the end of the day, women want to have partnership. Trust me, they do.
So
It
um I just want to get to this comment real quick. Lori says, why were you having sex with someone not on birth control? Your fault, to own it. So first thing is, she never did get pregnant. Secondly, all the research that's out there says that the coitus interruptus method, which means pulling out, is just as effective as condom usage, because condoms do break. Condoms are not perfect protection, and neither is the pullout method. But strong pullout game actually is as effective as condom usage. People don't realize that. So unlike Joe Biden's pullout game in Afghanistan, my pullout game has been pretty good in my life. And the one time that it failed me with the girl that I got pregnant, I was all about keeping that child. So I still did
that's
not
what
want an abortion in that
I've
situation.
heard that from so many men. They say it jokingly, and, like, I've heard that from so many men. They're like, hey, I've pulled out my whole life and nothing has happened. And then as women, like, okay, track yourself. Like, fucking track yourself. It's not that hard. Get off of birth control. Birth control is going to deplete your sexual drive. It's going to prevent you from having children. It's going to cause problems when you have children. You should actually be off of birth control and cleanse yourself for a year and a half before you have children. Like, that's what's recommended by the people who make birth control. So, and then you're more likely to get hair loss, you get weak, you get all the things that make you, this is not a bad thing. I think our value as women deprives from our beauty, right? So you're gonna lose your hair, you're gonna get weaker nails, you're gonna get duller skin. Like, these are all things like that. Birth control is not good for you. So if you want to be on it, you definitely can, but there are other ways to track yourself. There are other ways to not get pregnant.
I just did a fact check on myself, by the way, and apparently the correct pullout usage is 96% effective, and correct condom usage is 98% effective. So it's a 2-point percentage difference. So I just want to fact check myself.
2% is working for you,
but it's 2% difference. So 96% versus 98%. That's pretty close, in my opinion. The problem is most guys don't pull out correctly, and that's where they have problems. So strong pullout game, very effective. Weak pullout game, you're going to make a mistake, they say, about 1 in 5 times. So about 22% failure rate if you're bad at it. So they're the stats, guys. And one thing I want to address is what Lori is saying about, it seems like we're putting all the blame on women. Ultimately, if a woman is choosing to have the abortion and it's her choice, then it's her fault. If the man is pressuring the woman to have the abortion, well, then he's also to blame. Men who leave their wives or leave their partners because they get pregnant, they're bad too, and they should also be addressed, those men. I'm not saying that men are completely faultless here. I know in a lot of situations, men are guilty of bad behavior, but right now we're not focused on that. Should men step up? Of course. But the bottom line is men have been told not to get involved. It's you don't have a uterus, don't talk about it. It's a woman's choice. So a lot of men have been beat down.
I'm going to say it. I'm a woman. I'm not scared of it. It is your fucking choice. You opened your legs. You seduced that man. You kissed him. You made out with him. You are courting him in your own way just as much as he is courting you. So if you chose to lay with him because of your seduction, women are masters of seduction, okay? Do not lie to me. Unless, like I said, unless you were raped, which is less than 1% of the abortions, and majority of women who are raped actually put their children up for adoption. They don't abort them. Unless you are raped, it is 100% your choice to put yourself in a situation where you will be vulnerable. That's why we are the vulnerable sex, because we will be checked out for 9 months if we get pregnant. That's why we need to find better suitors and not losers just because they're hot or whatever, or just because you like him, just because he said something nice to you. Actually find a better suitor. So if you do accidentally get pregnant, it's someone who is of value. And so don't be opening your legs for someone who is of no value. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm so
got crypto. Right? Get you a guy that has some crypto. That's what you need. All you ladies out there, if your guy doesn't have crypto, then he's got to go. There you go. That's a nice tagline for you guys.
Okay. Yeah. See, Lori, you're bringing up points that are very, like, you're talking about the possibility, not the probability. The probability, the reality of the situation is majority of women are getting abortions out of convenience. Yes, there are women that are getting forced to get abortions by their families, by their even their churches. That's another thing that pisses me off is majority of churches are against abortion, but they don't talk about it. The only one that's very much big advocate of it is obviously the Catholic Church. We talk about it all the time, but that's not, you're talking about possibilities. You're living in a fantasy land. You're doing things that women do all the time where they're like, but what if this one person, it's like, okay, that doesn't matter. We're not talking about that person. We're talking about the large population of people who are getting abortions out of convenience. They're not getting them because they're actually dying or anything like that. And the rules of, like, oh, the doctor said the baby was going to die with an undeveloped brain. Okay, you know how many babies have been born with an undeveloped brain and are out here living as adults?
Another thing is, I also say that doctors that perform abortions should be called hitmen. because they are assassinating life.
Women,
They're killing
get
life.
out of your fucking emotions. I'm sorry I'm cussing. Like, get out of your emotions. Start thinking logically. Start thinking for the reality of things. The reality. There are a lot of
Yeah,
women
she
that
says it right there.
yeah, see,
Exactly.
there's a lot of women.
That's
That's
the
what we just said.
problem.
We just talked about Adam's experience. That was her choice. That she wasn't pro-choice. That was her only choice. That was her choice A. Her choice A wasn't a condom or pull-out or birth control. Her choice A was abortion. That was her choice A. So yes, it's so that's what needs to be talked about.
Exactly. And I get that there's a lot of complex situations. I get, why women get pressured by external forces into having abortion. I get all of that. I know that some families are guilty of pushing women. Totally understand that. Ultimately, what I'm just trying to say is abortion is bad, and they should just do adoption instead.
And
And
the
people
majority
like
of
me and
people who are
miracles,
getting, yeah.
we are literally two people that are here from adoption. We are literally here because of adoption and not abortion. And so that's why I wanted to get her on the stream. Also, because we're both two Latinos, excuse me, I'm a Latino, you're a Latina. But the difference is you were actually raised in a Latino household, right? So you have that culture still.
Yes, I did, and I was luckily raised in like they're technically my mom. It was my mom's sister, so I was technically still raised in the same family that I was going to be raised
Right.
in, and I got to be raised
¿Tú
by a
hablas
Uruguayan.
español?
Sí hablo español.
Oh, that's so right. Yeah. I'm considered a transracial adoptee because my parents' ethnicity doesn't match mine. So
Yes, I know. When you told me that you were raised by white people, I told you congratulations for not getting the chancla.
yeah, I didn't know what that was. And then I looked it up and I'm like, that's the slipper that they got hit with, right? That's the slippers, the chancla.
Yes, yes. But no,
She
I
said
I
something. I got a question for you. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Latinx?
I don't like the Latinx thing. The Latinx thing actually I learned the other day. I didn't even know that it was Latinx because of this. I thought it was Latinx because they just didn't want to say like I guess Hispanic, but Latinx is because of a gender thing, right? Because they don't want
Yeah,
to associate it with Latino or Latina. But
right.
we
You're trying to
when
get rid of the
you're
patriarchy.
actually when you're talking about the language of like you're talking about the Spanish language, when we use Latinos, we're not talking about males, we're talking about a large range of people.
Right, right. It's such a
That's just
stupid thing.
proper grammar.
Right. Lori says, I'm quitting your channel as I'm not going to. So, Lori, I wanted to say that there are certain topics where people get fired up and emotional. And obviously, you can speak with us because you're a voice. Um, so I feel bad if that's the way you've interpreted this, but people get heated and they get emotional, they get passionate and fired up. And one thing I do want, we are here engaging with our audience. I'm here. We're talking to you guys. All your comments. We're doing that courtesy for you. That's very important to me on my channel. So if you took it the wrong way, it is what it is. But I don't think anybody here, especially me or Miracles, we're just talking to you. We're just fired up about the abortion conversation in general. So if you sad to see you go, we love your commentary. So if you'd like to stick around, we'd appreciate that. And thank you for throwing in some of your thoughts during this channel. And then I want to talk to you real quick. I guess we'll just do a quick grab bag right now about Lia Thomas, the transgender swimmer that won the NCAA championship.
Okay, so I actually have been posting about this a lot on my professional page where I do nails because I think women are the ones that need to talk about this topic in particular. We need help from men, and men are doing it. Men are helping us. Men are the ones going, no, they're wrong. Like, I could crush you. So they're the ones admitting it. Women are the ones that are like, oh shit, did we just fuck up because we allowed this to happen? Because we technically
Yep.
did. We've allowed
Yep.
people to call us pregnant people. We've allowed people to call us bleeders. We've allowed people to not call us by what we are, which is a woman. And the thing that that worries me is not the fact that like this is all wrong already, right? But what worries me is in history, in any civilization that has existed, the second that the men start becoming more feminine and the topic of gender starts, like genders start mixing and there's fluidity, the civilization collapses, and
Yep.
it doesn't continue to exist after that. So it's very, to me, it's just showing us what our future is going to be of. And it's upsetting. As a woman, it's upsetting. I have actually, because I live in Oceanside, I have a lot of surfers and swimmers as clients. And, you know, I have a client that beat a record in the that hasn't been beat since the 60s. And she's a swimmer. And she's like, you know, that's probably going to be taken away from me. Like, if that existed now, that would have been taken away from me. And what's even more pathetic and sad is that man, because he is a man, is he was like ranked 400th place with the men. And that to me just shows like, okay, so you're just a loser. You're just a fucking loser, and you wanted to invade our space where we're thriving. And you know what? It's just this is the start of something very, very bad, because not just because these young women are going to lose scholarships, or they're going to lose titles, or they're going to lose money, honestly. We're all about women in the pay gap, the wage gap that doesn't exist, and women getting more money. But now these higher earnings are going to go by men, because men are going to just be like, I'll just be a woman. And I'm really disgusted. I don't remember which sports brand put it out. I don't know if it was Under Armour. I don't think it was Under Armour. It was something else. Put out it was Adidas. They're like, or if you want to compete as a trans woman, like it was like something like they were talking about how it was a very hard thing to do. And it's like, don't encourage this behavior in the community where there's sports, because a weak man that doesn't have any morals or any values is gonna just get like upset and sad that he's not number one, and just go over to being a woman and do what he has to do to get his title. And that's really disappointing. So
Yep.
I think women need to speak up. They need to say something, because at the end of the day, this topic is just invading a competition where there's people around and it's safe, and there's cameras. But this is not involving what happened a few miles away from here, where there was a camp. They had a summer camp for kids, and they told the counselors that they were allowed to pick their gender, so they could go and sleep in whatever room they wanted to, and then whatever cabin they wanted to, with the girls or the boys. And they had men sleep with little girls in their room. And I think it's just as women are abusers as well. Women are sexual abusers. You could have had a woman sleeping in your little boy's room too, and that's just as fucking bad. So it's right now invading where you can see it, and cameras and everything. It's going to start invading all these other places. In California, we had that spa that the man just came in with a freaking penis. Like, I remember when this argument was here 5 years ago, he was like, oh, trans women are dressed like, trans women are just trying to be, women. You're not going to notice that they're men. You're not going to notice. They're not going to try to look like a man. And then this guy goes into a spa, just says he's female, but no breast implants, still has a penis, just walks into a sauna where there's a 7-year-old with their mother.
He had a record. He was a sexual offender. He had a record.
And this is what we told you guys. We told you people are going to take advantage of this if you allow this to happen. This is what we told you. I have met trans people, and I have met some trans women because I worked helping with incarcerated women. And unfortunately, a lot of men that leave incarceration sometimes kind of fall into that lifestyle of turning into women. And, they do look like women if they want to be. They do try. They don't try to aim this lifestyle to where they're trying to be sexual predators, I guess. And I'm not for it. I don't think that this is a good lifestyle. I think this has a lot to do with pain and some child trauma that they've gone through. But those people weren't the ones advocating for this to happen. It was people who wanted to corrupt your children. People who knew, just like us, like, no, this is going to go a different direction. This is not for the people who are trans. This is going to go a different direction. But those people wanted that. They wanted destruction to happen, because if there's too much destruction, too much stuff going on, you'll be ignoring all the things that you should be paying attention to, which is what our government wants us to do right now.
Right. Yeah, well said. I mean, this is messed up. And the fact that people like you and me are speaking up for women, it kind of makes us the new kind of feminists. Like, I never thought that I'd be a feminist defending women's rights, but here I am saying that transgender women do not belong in the same sporting room, in the same sporting competitions as women do. It's supposed to be broken up by biology. And all the science and research says trans women do have advantages. Muscle fibers, bone density, bone length, height, strength, response time. Men are superior athletes physically. That's just the reality. And that's why, as someone in the comments said, we are hunter-gatherers. That's our job, is to chase down the beasts in nature. And women are meant to stay. That's the biology. Raise the kids, nurture the family. And we're getting so far away from that in Western culture. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. What did this person say? Women never get persecuted like male pedos do, not really caring that pedos get jacked up. What I'm saying is all pedos need to get hemmed up.
Yes, you're right. You're right. And I will tell you that you're right, because I have actually experienced that. So you're very right. I was unfortunately incarcerated, and I got into this stupid thing when I was 19. And I've met a lot of people in that situation, which is why I help a lot of incarcerated people. Women do not get the same amount of time that men do when they commit these crimes, which is why women need to stand up and say something, because men are, we're not gonna, we should hold women accountable. Women need to hold women accountable, because when men do it, you tell them that they're not allowed to do it because they're men. So women need to hold more women accountable.
It's so funny to me when feminists are always like, everything's not equal. I'm like, hold on, men have higher suicide rates. Men are incarcerated much higher. Men have longer jail sentences. You sure you want things to be equal? Are you sure? There's just innate differences that happen between men and women, and that's the reality. And if you guys want to learn more about those differences, Jordan Peterson is a professional psychologist that really goes into it in depth. So I recommend you guys watch his stuff. He's awesome.
I also highly recommend how feminism is heard, or how feminism failed modern women. It's on YouTube. It's by Fresh and Frit, and it also has Rollo Tomassi, is the author of The Rational Male. And they go into depth with statistics, and from like you said, hunters and gatherers, from way back when down to the modern world, and how it's changed, and why it's changing, and how it's failing women. This idea of women's rights, feminism, and the ERA, and second wave feminism, third wave feminism, all of that. It goes into detail with all of that. It's about an hour and a half long video, all facts, no opinions. I highly recommend everyone watch that video. It's one of my.
Did you tell me that the Rational Male retweeted one of my shared one of my posts?
Yes, it's the Thought Mommies in the Club.
Yeah, that's right. The Rational Male on Instagram shared one of my posts, which was awesome. So if he ever watches this, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for giving my my page some visibility. And if you guys want to check her out on Instagram, I can't screen share for some reason right now, but go to Instagram, and her username is on her screen right now, Miracles in Spanish. That's actually her Instagram name. And one of the videos that she sent to me, I posted on my channel, and it got like 20,000 views, which I think is considered viral. And she was basically talking about what is the quote? If you're not going to blame a white, if you're not going to, can you say it?
If you're not going to give a white person all of your success in life, why would you hand them over all of your failures?
Exactly. Is it because it's easier than looking in the mirror? That's a great video. That really triggers the libs. I freaking love that. It's fun to do that, as I did today here in St. Augustine. All All right, we hit the hour mark. That went by so quickly, and that was such a fun conversation. Would you like to do some closing thoughts for the audience before I wrap it up?
All right, if there's any women in the audience, please hold women accountable. Please talk to other women and hold them accountable. Please say out loud. Don't focus on our feelings so much. We need to be pushed to the wall and be like, no, this is how it is, ladies. And men, please speak up for unborn children's lives. You have the right to. Half of them are boys. And half of your DNA is in there. There is another man out there that doesn't know that their child is being killed. I've unfortunately know too many women, because women in their circles tell secrets and we don't, that men don't know of, and you guys are being played and it sucks.
That's right. Well said.
So
All right, guys. Well, I was gonna say I really appreciated the time with you today. It was really passionate. It was fun. It was engaging. I know I was engaged, and yeah, I really appreciate the time today. And thank you for this is my first car podcast, by the way. First time that I'm in a car and you're in a car. It's pretty cool. So if you guys like this, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Smash that thumbs up button as hard as you can. Use your hips if you guys want. And tell a friend about my channel. I am shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm. I don't care what they say. They claim I'm not, but I know for a fact I am. So share, subscribe, like, comment, share. Go follow her on Instagram. And I will see you guys next time. So as I like to say, adios, chicas guapas. Nice talking to you, Miracles.
bye. Adios, chicas guapas.
That's right. I'm going to play that theme song that you guys love so much to wrap this up. Peace out, guys. Let's go, Brandon.